Welcome to Think Tank, the Army Cyber Institute at West Point's podcast. At the Army Cyber Institute, we confront the Army's most critical cyber challenges. We engage across our government and with our allies to better understand how cyber is changing conflict, and reach out to academia and industry to bridge gaps and stimulate cyber research. We are here to engage you on the latest in cyber and information warfare. So today I am joined by Colonel Andy Hall, the director of the Army Cyber Institute at West Point. Sir, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your education, and how you came to be the director of ACI?
I guess it started out at West Point as a cadet from 1987 to 91 when I got a chance to start studying computer science. It was really a great time to be in the computer science field, as the Association for Computing Machines and IEEE had just come up with the ideas of what a computer science education should be. And so as a West Point cadet, I got a chance to study computer science, and a lot of the fundamentals that we got a chance to learn then have aged with me very well. And then I got a chance, after doing some time in the Army, to get assigned back to West Point. And so en route, I went to the Naval Postgraduate School and studied applied mathematics. And I got a chance to see how much applied mathematics was similar to what we were doing with computer science. Because when you are looking at numerical computation and you're looking at abstract algebra or discrete mathematics, these mathematical foundations in computer science are really very close. And then I got a chance to shift over into the operations research career field, and then went to the University of Maryland's Smith School of Business to get a PhD in operations research. And so I've had a great opportunity to kind of evolve over time, starting in computer science and then going through applied mathematics, and then working in a business school. You get a chance to really focus on a lot of diverse applications as a part of doing my PhD. I started out as an infantryman, which gave me the opportunity to live out my adult Boy Scout dreams of running around in the woods and enjoying the time in both everywhere from the jungles of Panama to the deserts of Saudi Arabia, and then I'm not sure exactly what we call Korea, but being out on the point of the spear for the land of the morning sun. And after doing these different infantry jobs, I got a chance then to come back to West Point. And that was at the time when we were switching from being a dual-track system Army to a single-track system. So I started out as an infantryman and an automation officer, the systems automation, FA-53. And so when I got to West Point, I got a chance to run the math department's network. At the time, we got to do crazy things like run our own Linux mail servers, and we had all of our own network-attached storage, and things that today would be considered completely crazy. We got a chance to do ourselves within the math department. And so it set me up then. When I was leaving the math department, I was then assessed into the operations research career field as a major, and started working on using these kinds of tools to solve the problems of the Army, and be it problems that we had in Iraq when we were looking at campaign planning, campaign assessments, looking at creating surveys to find out what the Iraqi people were thinking about. But we were using mathematics and decision tools to assist the commanders. And at the time, I was working for General Vangel and General Vines, who was the 18th Airborne Corps commander at the time, and really got a chance at that point to work and think about non-lethal effects and what was happening with regard to the different actions that our soldiers were taking on the ground, as well as the messaging that we were putting out. And so we were working and were the proponents for all of the information operations in theater, and that was my first exposure to what we would be doing really today. I got a chance to work in the Joint Staff J3, and the operations officer for the Joint Staff is the J3 of the Joint Staff. And so we were working on global force management, where we were sending forces everywhere around the world. So one of the things that we have to do was receive requests for forces and then come up with the forces to fill those type of requests. And so one of the first requests that we got to work on was the request from Cyber Command to stand up the teams that Cyber Command was going to need. And one of the rules of the request for forces is you're only allowed to ask for things we have. So you can't ask for the Starship Enterprise, but you can ask for the aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise. And so likewise, when they wanted cyber soldiers in 2010, 2011, we didn't have any way to actually give them what they were asking for because we hadn't created them yet. So we did things like sent them our systems automation officers, which meant that we were sending them a bunch of majors that had some idea of what they were doing with computer security. The different services would find different ranks and specialties, and it was trying to find some way to put it all together. So I got a chance to go from there to the Army G1, the personnel proponent, and I got the task there of getting a chance to put together the cyber branch. And so I was able to work on solving the problem we'd had in the Joint Staff, where when they put in a request for something we didn't have, I went to the G1 and got a chance to build the thing that we should have had in the first place. And so then, after having worked on the creation of the cyber branch, the opportunity to apply to come up and be the director of the Army Cyber Institute presented itself. And so that's how I ended up getting a chance to be here.
Well, you've clearly had a very diverse career and going through the Army and having a lot of different experiences in different units. And just how is the Army Cyber Institute different than every other unit and every other organization you have been a part of in your career?
One of the things that makes the Army Cyber Institute different is that we sit at the boundary of being an academic organization and being a military organization. And so the academic organization gives us academic freedom, which allows us to look, research, and come up with ideas. You have to be able to share your ideas and put them out there for peer review because some of them may be right and some of them may be wrong. Mm-hmm. And if you're continually worried that your ideas will be held accountable, is a different environment than academic freedom. And so most of our military organizations are very sensitive, and the academic freedom is not a luxury that they can have. When we were established, General Odierno, General Alexander, General Hernandez all thought that we needed somebody that could think about what was going on in the cyber domain. And this was before we had a Cyber Center of Excellence at Fort Gordon. And General Odierno wanted somebody to ensure that they were thinking about cyber so he didn't have to worry about staying up at night thinking about it. And so he was very happy to be able to give that burden to somebody else to think about it. And so when you're going to explore the body of knowledge and really push out what cyber is and could be for the Army, you have to have that kind of a innovative and academic environment so that you can really push the boundaries. So that's one of the things that's really unique about being at the Army Cyber Institute. Another thing that's very unique is the diversity of soldiers that we are allowed to have. Because the Army Cyber Institute was founded before the cyber branch, we were able to put in a request for soldiers that were from a diverse set of skills, everything from intelligence and signal to public affairs to operations research to simulation professionals, and to include all of the information operations specialties, the electronic warfare, the PSYOP, and the information operations. And so we created a team with a very deep specialization, all interested in solving problems in the cyber domain, but without having a cookie cutter, everyone being the same. And so we have a good diversity just by having cyber officers, but the number of officers we have that are outside of the cyber branch help us to do the research that will affect all of the soldiers of the Army. Because we at the Army Cyber Institute believe that we have to be able to find a way as an Army to fight through any kind of congestion that's going to happen within the cyber domain. And that's going to be a congestion or a contested space that every soldier is going to feel, because every radio, every command and control system, they're all going to be potentially at risk. And so we have to work where every soldier understands their role in the cyber domain just the same way as every soldier understands how the air works as a domain and how the sea works as a domain.
How does the Army Cyber Institute utilize the concept of multidisciplinary teams?
Well, we view multidisciplinary as being an extension of interdisciplinary. So we have soldiers and civilians that we would say are interdisciplinary. They are often working at the boundary of two areas. Like myself as operations research, I'm at the boundary of economics, computer science, mathematics, and what you consider to be all of the supporting parts of operations research. And we have some cognitive scientists that are at the interface of sociology or cognitive science and this cyber domain. And so you have these individuals that are interdisciplinary, where they're really working at the interface of two disciplines. And then we put them together onto teams. And these multidisciplinary teams leverage the interdisciplinary nature of the soldiers and civilians that are serving on them. Some of the people that we have are really very much in their discipline. And when they come to the Army Cyber Institute, we add the cyber component so they become a little more interdisciplinary. And then as we put them on a team, then we have the multidisciplinary team. We've done a little bit of research in this, and there was a paper that Gene Blair, Ed Siobesk, and I wrote in IEEE Computer, which talks about how to create multidisciplinary cyber teams and really looking at the variety of skills that you need. And one of the important parts of the multidisciplinary team is that the soft skills come into the team, because you have to be able to work with people that are not in your same academic clan, so to speak. And so as you're learning to work and explain what you are working on, the soft skills become increasingly important. And you can have some people on the team that are in a leadership role and that have some outstanding soft skills, and they may not be the technical expert, and they have to be able to work with a team and allow the technical people to take lead at the right points and still keep the projects on task.
What are the implications of having these types of teams in the Army?
With the Army, we've been creating a series of teams in support of the National Mission Force objectives. So we've got some defensive teams, we've got offensive teams, but these teams have a variety of soldiers on them. And it's really important for us to continue to have intelligence soldiers, cyber soldiers, electronic warfare soldiers, as well as signal soldiers on these teams. We can't try to create a cyber soldier that's going to have all the specialties. And we need to realize that most of our soldiers in the Army do have a role in cyber. And so we have a core group of cyber officers that will continue to work along with our cyber enlisted soldiers and cyber warrant officers within this space. But then there will be the team that's made up of the rest of the Army that's going to join them for a tour, similar to the way that we get the different specialties that may do a tour with an armor unit, and then they do a tour with an infantry unit, and maybe a tour with a field artillery unit. And so they then work as those multidisciplinary teams. We've always had multidisciplinary teams throughout the Army, and that's one of the things that makes the United States Army so great is the variety of people that we put together. And we might say that every person that's the same MOS, like all infantrymen are the same. We all know they're not the same. And so by having a large number of people brought together, you get some diverse teams. And with the cyber force, with the units being a little smaller, we have to take a little more directed effort to ensure we get those multidisciplinary teams.
So I know as a director of the Army Cyber Institute, that's literally a job in and of itself. But what research are you currently working on, sir?
So I'm working on a few different efforts, one of which is working on the personnel and manpower requirements for the cyber force. And so we're working supporting the Cyber Center of Excellence down at Fort Gordon and using optimization modeling and some Markov chain type models in addition to some robust optimization to come up with different plan for how many soldiers you'd need and where they would be exiting and really trying to give them some insight into how they need to grow the branch. We can't look to history to tell what's going to happen with the cyber branch in particular, but we can look at some other specialties that might be similar. And so we're looking at that kind of data analysis of the other specialties as well as looking at creating a force going forward. We are also working with cyber education, and I work with us trying to figure out how we can best prepare all of our cadets to be the leaders for tomorrow. And so we're doing research to try to figure out how to present those ideas and ensure that they understand what cyber domain really has in store. And then one other effort that I'm working on with Arizona State University is on threat casting and looking and to try to figure out what the threats might be 10 years in the future. And so that kind of a forecasting type world is something that we're also doing some research in, or that I'm doing research in personally.
Could you explain a little bit of the ACI's bigger priorities and research projects right now that we're currently working on?
We've got some great partnership activities that are going on. And so we've been working with the Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence out of Tallinn, Estonia. And this is a NATO-accredited center of excellence. And since they established it, they've been working to try to bring the ideas of cyber defense to NATO. And we've been working with them. And part of what we've worked on with them is to create a cyber conflict conference in the United States, which we call CyCon US, which is a sister conference to CyCon, which is held in Tallinn every year. And so we brought the conference to the United States to get a little different audience and to help spread the impact of the NATO Cooperative Defense Center of Excellence. Also had a great opportunity to work with the Dutch, with the Netherlands Cyber Command, and look at some of the work that they're doing to try to spot talent in their force and the different tools that they're using to identify who might be a good soldier to work in the cyber force. But we worked with various allies. We've worked with also with the Norwegians, and we worked a little with the Israelis, and we just keep trying to work with our friends and allies to ensure that we, as an alliance, are able to work forward and improve our cyber defense. So that partnership is really important, and we've also used those kinds of partnerships to help us look at the defense of critical infrastructure and key resources. So we've worked with both the city of Manhattan as well as the company Citibank, as well as all of the first responders in New York City to take a look at what would happen on a major cyber event. There was some nice pieces that have been written in the New Yorker about a terrible cyber event, and those are the kind of ideas that we helped play out and look at how we would defend our critical infrastructure. And so that event we called Jack Voltaic, and we've been working on extending that research into how communities can defend themselves, and have worked with, in addition to Manhattan, with Houston, and are now working with Savannah and Charleston. And we've got a chance to do some work in Norfolk and San Diego, and continuing to work to expand our exploration of how we can do this kind of critical infrastructure security.
So when you say cyber event, basically like what would happen in a cyber attack against a city or a municipality?
Yes, and we've been working on this for several years, and we've really seen an increase in the number of cyber events that have taken place, like just recently against the city of Baltimore. And so we've been trying to work with cities to help them understand or help us develop what would be a framework. And we're looking to develop a framework which we then can help the cities to export to their other sister cities across the country to look at how we can defend ourselves. We know that the resources of the United States offer a huge target. And if you were to do a center of gravity analysis of the attacking United States, really the American population would be one of our centers of gravity. Another one might be the finance industry. And both of those there are ways you can use a cyber attack to affect the finance industry. There are ways you could attack into maybe electric or maybe water, some of the other critical infrastructure that would affect a wide group of Americans. And so we're trying to figure out how we can help our cities become more resilient. And part of it is about recovery, because you can't defend against everything, but you need to know how to be able to recover better and quicker. And that's one of the things we were working with Houston on our Jack Voltaic 2.0, And they had already gone through the hurricane and the recovery from the hurricane. And a lot of the events that you could have that would be cyber attacks might have the same end effects that you would have seen from a hurricane. So whether or not it's Mother Nature's attack or whether or not it's a cyber attack, we have to help our cities become more resilient so that they can recover better.
Absolutely. I know the ACI also has a summer internship program for ROTC cadets. What do you hope to gain from that, from having that internship here?
Chief of Staff of the Army, General Milley, had said that he was interested in getting as many cadets as possible a West Point experience. And some of the opportunities that we saw was to bring ROTC cadets to West Point to work on the cyber issues. And it really has been a fabulous program. We started out with 3 years ago with about 8 cadets from ROTC. The next year we over doubled that, and I think we'll have over 40 this year that will be here with us this summer. But it is an opportunity for cadets from across the country to take a look at their education and put it to use. And so it's a unique opportunity to both be on active duty and getting a chance to learn about what could be happening in the Army and wearing their uniform, and at the same time working in an interdisciplinary team. Because these young cadets that we have that are coming from across the country, whether or not they're from MIT or USC, they've got a wide range of skills, but they bring a very different mindset based on where they're going to school. And by bringing these teams together, we get a chance to focus on really what are some multidisciplinary problems. The other thing that's really exciting is that these cadets come in and are 100% all in on this internship. And so you're able to do quite a bit of research in a short period of time because of they're just so excited to be working together. And it's really very encouraging. I think that's why cyber internships have been so popular, is because you don't have to be going into the cyber branch to be doing a cyber internship. This is something that we have people that will go into all the specialties, but they get a chance to learn a little bit more about how the cyber might affect you as an infantryman or as a tanker. But the cyber domain has influence on all of us.
Absolutely. Cyber affects everything, so it's really neat that these cadets are coming from different backgrounds. And even if they don't branch cyber, they get to take that back to their branch and their specialty and just understand how they can better protect or defend themselves and just how they can also use cyber to their advantage. So I know you mentioned a lot of the academic outreach that ACI does and the importance of engaging with those academic institutions like ASU for threat casting. What other institutions and research are we conducting with those schools?
We are helping work with Columbia University through an educational partnership agreement where we are working on teaching the technical aspects of cyber to public policy students. And so one of the reasons that we're interested in this is that the students are not coming from a cyber background, but they need to learn the cyber technical details in order to do a better job on their policy work. And so similarly, we believe that the soldiers that we have that are going through both the Command General Staff College as well as the Army War College are at a point where they've got some technical expertise, but it's not necessarily in cyber. And so we're trying to come up with some coursework that will be available for our soldiers and officers to learn a little bit more about what technically is going on in the cyber domain. So we've been working on that with Columbia University. We've also been working with Carnegie Mellon and trying to come up with a simulation that we can do cyber warfighting on or against. We've done some work with augmented reality. We've done some work with the virtual reality, but we also are working with how do you create a system that you might need to attack or defend. And if you're having a computer system, it has to have enough daily life on that system so that you're not just looking at one malicious piece of code and there's no normal code. It's like anything else where you're trying to figure out a way that you can simulate the environment that the soldiers will be working in. And so that's part of what we're working on with Carnegie Mellon is how to come up with those simulations that will allow us to be able to have the background chatter that exists on all the networks.
That's very interesting because that's showing like the application of the research that we're doing at the Army Cyber Institute and how it can apply to the real, like to the Army, bigger Army efforts and the initiatives there, and getting the cyber awareness, if you will, sir, down to the lowest level, the lowest user for a soldier. So I think that's very interesting. Well, sir, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you very much for your time. This has been fun, and we'll look forward to having an opportunity to continue the dialogue. One of the things that we're trying to do in the Army Cyber Institute is to establish a dialogue. We don't believe that we have all the answers, but we do believe that there is a host of academics across the country that could contribute to it. We believe that there are a host of cyber professionals working throughout industry that have something to offer, and that the only way that we're really going to defend our country is by working all together. And we have a need for a large number of cyber professionals or cybersecurity experts to do the work of defending our country. And it's really important that we see the value of creating these multidisciplinary teams. Because by making a multidisciplinary team, you can make the organization bigger. But you can't afford to only hire one cybersecurity professional. You have to be able to hire a team of professionals, and you have to be able to hire some cybersecurity professionals that can lead teams. And so there would be some that are really expert on doing the technical work, but we need to have people that can be player coaches and just stand up next to somebody else and help them do the work. And they have to be patient enough to teach someone else the details of what we're doing. And so that's part of this whole teamwork as we're going forward. We believe that if we can continue to grow the force that's in the Army, that there's going to be a natural transition where a large number of our soldiers are going to come in. They're going to learn about cybersecurity, and then they're going to go out to work for American companies. And that has to be okay. The size of the force that we develop has to be big enough that we can have our soldiers going from working in the Army to then defending the rest of the nation by working with the businesses that make our country great.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. Next time on Think Tank.
First off, we worked with the Army's information warfare team to help them transform how we'll confront adversaries in this domain overseas in a manner that promotes an overall American strategy.
Thank you for joining us.